Good morning, everyone. It is indeed a pleasure to be at this conference, and I'm getting some assistance here with the communications team. In the first sessions, there was an overview of the current status, the benefits of aquaculture, and some of the species being produced. And as we know, we're not in a good position globally, being at 0.5% of global production. There was also discussion on the constraints and challenges, and the ones I'm focusing on are a need for more trained, skilled human resources, research and innovation, and entrepreneurship. The way forward is well documented with the strategies needed. But one of the outstanding things for me is a need to change a negative perception and attitudes towards aquaculture among the population and private businesses in the Caribbean. Speaking as a Jamaican, and from my experience, if you ask most persons or even secondary biology teachers, what is aquaculture? The perception is only about tilapia cultivation. For many Caribbean parents, it may not even be on the list for their kids to study, especially if they want to go to university or graduate school. And one of our greatest resources, as we know, are our people. And currently, we have very few secondary or tertiary schools which have a curriculum for aquaculture sciences. The numbers of boys and young men studying science in general has fallen, and so we need to increase the technical aquaculture training in our youths. As one of the next steps in the development of aquaculture for the region is to share the important resources that we have with our students and teachers. We also should look into the idea of giving aquaculture and mariculture separate considerations from fisheries. Each sector has its own needs that needs to be examined and expanded upon, as well as looking at how they do overlap. And I think this is currently what is happening in Belize, where aquaculture has been separated out from mariculture to give the boost to the seaweed industry. Another concept that is missing from the way forward is a network. Having a network is one of the fastest ways to get information and to collaborate with other persons in the field. Based on my experiences working as a consultant in Jamaica, I observed that many farmers work in isolation. Farmers do not like to share information and are very competitive with the information that they have accumulated. They believe that this will help them to be more successful in their businesses. But by not working together and sharing resources and information, this is one of the many reasons that can be holding back the industry. It is difficult to compete with the knowledge and resources that have already been established in Asia and Europe. Whereas before 2020, many persons did not have access or did not know about Zoom and social media, now even the most rural farmer has a phone and access to Zoom, which made it possible for us to start a virtual network during the pandemic in 2021. Our goal is to build linkages and collaborations with Caribbean aquaculturists and regional and global academia, entrepreneurs, industry, and government professionals. And we do this using social media and Zoom. Through the sponsorship and generosity of the time of professionals, we also were able to start free webinars. And for the sake of time, I would love you to visit our YouTube channel and to visit and see some of the work that we have done since 2021. I also started a newsletter which serves as an online magazine. The idea is to collect and share as much information as we can on the current activities of every sector in the aquaculture and mariculture industry in the Caribbean. As of today, we have 307 members from 48 countries. However, we noticed that although the webinars are very well attended, we did not have many coming from the Caribbean. So at some point, this is one of our goals, is to have a regional Caribbean marketing campaign on virtual networking for the aquaculture sector, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. So I'd really love for you to check out our newsletter and to sign up and share with our colleagues. By the end of 2022, through networking and word of mouth, like me, there are aquaculture scientists that live outside of their respective countries that enjoy the connection through these networking events. Outside of our countries, we also work in isolation, and we're usually the only Caribbean nationals in our fields. Our goal is to share our education and experiences from our specialties. And on this team, they're all masters or a PhD. And for time's sake, I invite you to go to our website and to learn more about our brilliant Caribbean scientists, their achievements, their current work and research. And I'm very excited that of the 6 aquaculture presentations in this conference, 5 came from this team. So it is a start, and we hope to have our team give more presentations in 2024. As you saw from the previous slide, we only have 1 male scientist, and that's our newly minted Dr. Ricardo Morris. Although we do want to focus on the fact that there are very few males in science, we want to highlight the women that are currently working in aquaculture. During the month of International Women and Women in Science, I did not see any events that honored aquaculture scientists. 30% of the women in the world account for scientists, and of this, 45.8% come from Latin America and the Caribbean, which is much higher than North America and Europe, which proves that one of our greatest resources is our women scientists, and we need to support their growth. In January this year, I edited a series of celebrating women in Caribbean aquaculture, which you can see on the website, thefishsite.com. With sponsorship from Biomar, in February 2023, on International Day of Women and Girls in Science, we officially formed Women in Caribbean Aquaculture Sciences. And with future sponsorships, our goal is to empower women within the aquaculture sector through mentorships, financial literacy, technical training, and knowledge and exchange. With further research and deciding our mission to focus on our expertise as scientists, in June of 2023, to combine both the network and WICA, we formed the Caribbean Aquaculture Education and Innovation Hub. So second to networking, education, and training, as CRFM does for fisheries, the same need goes towards developing aquaculture and mariculture. We need more extension agents, which I'll elaborate in the paper, with more skilled persons. And from experience, an important requirement for growth, especially for startup farmers. We need more regional data, hence more research scientists that know how to do proper data collection, analysis, and reporting. And lastly, more entrepreneurs willing to start businesses in the sectors that are not covered. So our mission is to provide an independent voice, offering science-based insight and knowledge between academia and private sector. And we want to promote aquaculture as a STEM subject in secondary and tertiary instruction, and to connect aquaculturists with various universities with programs such as the Erasmus Mundus program in Scotland, and to train teachers through creative trainings and workshops. We need to fill that generational gap. And last but not least, to change the negative perception of aquaculture into an exciting one, with a lot of promise for the next generation of scientists in our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russo. First, I wanted to say it was a very lovely presentation. The Turks and Caicos were very interested in dealing with aquaculture ourselves. So I raised by Mr. Gregory Kong and Mr. Milton Houghton.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to say, Dr. Russo, I'm very excited to see how far you have come and what you have achieved. But let me just make an observation. In my view, there is a pervasive perception among small-scale fishers now that aquaculture is a big man thing in Jamaica, which means for the more affluent in the society, and that government seems to be paying more attention to fish farmers. That is actually one of the pervasive perception in Jamaica at some time. I don't know if that is still the case. So I agree with your assessment. And I think that there is a critical need to enhance the institutional and legal framework to properly develop aquaculture. Might I dare say that there is still a lot of catching up to be done. Even although in some quarters, like in Jamaica, there have been significant capacity and capability development in Jamaica, both from the institutional and legal side of it. There is still a lot to be done. I'm just making that observation. I don't know if you want to comment on that. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, what are some of the key ingredients you would identify to encourage community-based aquaculture initiatives and small-scale subsistence aquaculture? Many of the things that you have alluded to, which is critical and important, I am a little bit uncertain that in the main, within the mix, that this type of target audience, and when I say community based, you know what I'm talking about. In many of these instances, the beneficiaries, the stakeholders here are not as literate, very numerate, yes, but certainly would have some issues in terms of the formal processes that most people tend to associate building capacity and the like. Thank you, Chair.
So thank you very much. This is a huge gap that needs to be filled. And so over the last year, we came together and decided how can we use our skills? So our skills are being scientists, research and development, innovation, and teachers. Most of us are teachers. So in already discussions with some teachers, we discovered that many don't even know what aquaculture is. So we want to focus, I know you're talking about community-based, and we've also worked with people that don't have higher education, but we feel that we need to start somehow with educating teachers. If they don't know or understand what aquaculture is, it's very difficult for it to get implemented into the system. And so that is one of the areas that we'd like to excite people to learn, that it's not just only about tilapia. We have, as I listed, and as you see in the paper, we have a wide sector of different things that we need to learn in aquaculture: nutrition, fish health, more about seaweed, research and development. And so we want to broaden that perspective about what tilapia is, to teach biology and agriculture teachers, and they can somehow, we can start getting it into our secondary schools. And Jamaica has, and the Caribbean has a very good secondary education. It can start there. And from there, we have the technical assistance, which can go into the farm and to help the community, because without those technical assistants visiting the farms every day or every week, it's very difficult also to get that growth. So that's kind of where we are starting right now.
First of all, I want to thank the presenter, Dr. Russo, for what I consider to be an excellent presentation. Aquaculture has been identified as a priority that we have to give more attention to going forward at the policy level. The potential certainly is there. I've traveled around the region, and one of the things that breaks my heart is to see small-scale operators, and even some larger ones, putting their money into aquaculture. And when you look at what they're doing, you realize that they are almost certain to fail because they're not following basic good practices for success in aquaculture. And this is largely because of the limited knowledge and understanding as to what it is that they're actually doing and supposed to do in order to succeed. But they hear about aquaculture, they have land, they have money, and so they think that you can just construct some ponds and throw some fish in, and and it would succeed. And it really breaks my heart. And this really just reinforces the point that was made about the need for better education and training and extension support to our investors and farmers who are involved in aquaculture for them to succeed, because it may look simple, but it's really quite complex. So I do hope that we can develop a more dynamic relationship with your group. I'm really impressed by the group that you have put together. I think it would be good for you to engage with the Caribbean Fisheries Forum and eventually to the Ministerial Council, so that your knowledge and expertise can be channeled into strengthening the policy legal framework and the incentives and support that governments will provide to aquaculture development, including mariculture, because I can tell you that there's a recognition of the importance of developing our aquaculture potential in the region across the board with all forms of aquaculture, including mariculture. So I'm really excited by your group, and it's great that we were able to engage with you and that you reached out to us to participate in this, because I think now many more people across the region are now aware of who you are, what you're doing, and the possibility for working with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The power of social media and internet during the pandemic.
Okay, we'll take the one last question from Ms. Lorna Ines, and then we'll move on to the next presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Dr. Russo. I am referring back to my presentation yesterday as regional coordinator of the IOC UNESCO subcommission for the Caribbean and adjacent regions. And I did mention the Blue Schools program, and I want to raise that with you because I know that the coordinator of the Blue Schools program in UNESCO does have some funding. And I mentioned it yesterday as a possible collaborative program between CRFM and ourselves, but I'm just thinking now that it might be that we want to discuss this further and include your program as well. I think we have a lot to talk about, and I just wanted to make that point, and perhaps we can make contact afterwards.